This is why you need a word journal in your life. This is my word journal. I don't know if you can read that. It also says personal dictionary here because a lot of people call it a personal dictionary instead of word journal. I personally call it a word journal, but you can call it whatever you want. Basically, what you do is every time you come across a new word, you write it down, and then you give a lot of information about it. Usually, I would write it down in my pocket notebook, and sometimes in my ideas notebook. So specifically here, like this. These have check marks on them because I've already written them down. I would write down interesting words. I would usually write them all on the same page. I wouldn't specifically write them, for example, a word here and then a word on like another page, and etc. I would write them all down here. I could also transfer them into my ideas journal, and I have these words here. This was around the time I was studying theology. That's where there is a lot of words that like have to do with the Bible and those types of things, or like religion in general. Basically, what the word journal does is it helps you expand your vocabulary and even expand your memory to a certain point, because everything that you write down, you have a much better chance of remembering rather than forgetting if you didn't write it down. I got the idea from this book, which I took from my dad's office, specifically this section of it. You can pause the video and do it. These words, I haven't written them down, so I'll take a note of that and I'll do that later. But I got the idea from this book, basically. I also saw that ParkNotes does it, but I got the idea from this book, not from those videos. Basically, so let's do a word together because so I can show you my process. So basically, I would put like a bullet point, and then I would do the word. Let me make you closer. I do the word, then I would do the definition, and then I would do a use case. Then I would go back here and do synonyms or another definition if it has different use cases. And then I either give examples of that word. So for example, when I did polygon, I gave examples of polygons. Nope, doesn't work. I gave examples of the polygon. And sometimes I translate the word into Maltese, which is my native language. But honestly, I'm better at English than I am at Maltese, so most of the time I don't translate it. I translated it like once or twice. Yeah, so basically, if I remember a word or come across a word in the wild, I would write down the date. Oops, it's not June yet. 25. Usually I would write down the time as well, and then, for example, I want to look up the exact definition of devour, for example. I would write down words for word journal. For example, devour, and then maybe enlightenment or something. And then I would continue writing them down. I would usually put like a box or something to tick them off later. And that's what I would do. And then I would write them down with this format. The main thing I do is the word and the definition. Sometimes I don't do synonyms. For example, with this, I just did the definition, use case, definition, use case. So when I did these sets, I didn't do synonyms. Basically, I do this because I find learning new things very interesting and fun to a certain point. And writing down the words and definitions can be tedious at times, But it's generally pretty enjoyable, especially when I'm learning new words, not specifically words that I just was interested in learning the exact definition. For example, entail, I knew what entail meant, but I just wanted to know the exact definition, even futile and feeble. But for example, idiocentric, I didn't know what that meant. I found it in a book, and I wanted to know what it meant. I'm going to leave you with some words so you can start your own word journal. These are already written down in my other notebooks, but I'll write them down here. Condemn. I wrote them down here. Idiocentric, which is already there. Obsolete and futile. So, idiocentric. Obsolete. How do you write obsolete? I'm just gonna write it how I think I can write it. That's not how you write it. Obsolete and futile. You can even add feeble in there. These two are nice words. They're not nice words, they're like interesting words. They're good vocab words, you know? Yeah, that's basically it. You just need to find words in books. So, for example, maybe some productivity books, or even books which are like, which have harder vocab words, but are still books made for, like, kids and stuff. And I think doing this from a young age is pretty good, because you'll eventually just learn much more words than the normal person would.